loosen this. Loosen this. Have to take this nut off, it looks like. Fortunately, it is loose enough, and then I'm hoping that the rod will pull out that way. Okay, so I had to take the nut off of here, and then I just pulled that rod out from the hole. Now I'm going to try and pull this rod through, which is a pain in the ass, as Mobile Tech mentioned. So, okay, we have disassembled. Want to measure the gap centered. We do not want to measure it from here to here because that aluminum plate is not centered. So here to here, 4 3/8, 4 3/8. The mark is right there. Sure do wish I had somebody to run the camera for me. Then we do the same thing for the hopper. Don't want to measure it from here. You want to measure it where the holes are, of course. And not take this point for granted as being the center. For all we know, it's not. So I'm going to measure here to here, and then with a pencil mark the center point. Center point is 4 inches. It's 8 inches from here to there. The first step in this modification is to straighten the rod. So the way to do that is put the nuts on both ends and bring them all the way down to the end. That way when you're straightening the rod, or I'm straightening the rod, if I ding the threads, I can chase those dings out. If the nuts are on, I just back off the nuts, and hopefully the ding will get removed. So first step, straighten the rod, otherwise measurements are not going to be accurate. To straighten the rod, of course, you need a chainsaw. I'm just kidding. I'm going to use a bench vise that has a rod cut in there, and I am not going to use any tools. I'm not going to bang on it with a hammer or anything. I'm going to put that in there, and I'm going to gently pull to get it as straight as I can. And if I had a camera person, you could see me doing that, but I don't. Okay, I have only straightened half of the rod, but I wanted to show this. It is slightly bent right where the threads start, so I have that chucked up in the vise on the bolt itself, and the bend is facing that way, and I'm going to very gently pull that rod that way and straighten the bend that's right at where the threads start. I have not done this end. You can get a sense of how much it's bent by twirling it. And once I do both ends, I'm going to take the nuts off, and I'm going to roll it and see how flat that. It doesn't have to be super straight, but it's got to be better than what it is. You can see that bend right there. Okay, let's go see. That's better. It's not precisely straight because the more I mess with it, the more likely I am to break the darn thing. So I'm going to say that is good. Okay, I have conduit here. I don't know if I mentioned that already. It's thicker than the Schedule 40 or Schedule 30. And this is wiring conduit. Not only do we want to prevent the hopper from sliding left and right, we also want to support it. And that means adding, perhaps, a support. So what I'm going to do is I'm not allowed to use this because this actually goes on something else. That's plate steel. I'm going to temporarily put the rod back in there, and I'm going to see the spacer size that I need to support that rod at the hopper, right up against the hopper. I mean, it'd be pointless to support it here. It has to be supported there. That way the hopper, when it's bouncing up and down, it'll be a little bit better supported. And I might have to put it inside. I'm going to use 1/2-inch steel plate, and I'm going to cut it on the chop saw, but I need to know the height of what I need to cut, and then I'll put the hole in there to center the rod. So the next step is to put the rod through. Okay. Note, by the way, that when I'm working with threaded material, I always put the bolts back on just in case I ding the threads like I did when I was straightening them. Since this is operated with the hopper up, I'm going to lift the hopper up when I make my measurements. I just want to support that hopper so this is going to be cut to length, but I need 1/2-inch steel plate on both sides, so I have to measure. It doesn't matter if the steel plate, I can make it variable, but I have to measure where the hole is going in that steel plate. Here's 1/2-inch steel plate. Chop saw. Ear protection. Eye protection. This is gonna taste like shit. Okay, we're going to break the edges with an angle grinder in the branch vise with eye protection and gloves. Okay, I have doused them in water. As you can see, it is real close to the edge. Okay, 7/16 will work. I'm going to measure the 7/16 from the edge that I cut, because I know that's flat, because the chop saw flattened it. So 7/16 from here to here, and in the center. I'm going to do the same with this one. Make sure I measured it from the edge that I cut. 7/16 in the center. Drill motor oil, spacer support in the vise, eye protection because my eyes are worth a hell of a lot more than that dry washer. Now I need to countersink it to break the edges around the circle. Okay, here's what we have come up with. The chamfer on here, that rounded edge, is not good enough for supporting the 1/2-inch steel plate. So I put a nut in there. So I have my mark here, and I have the other mark up there, and I'm going to line them up so that the hopper is now centered, and then put spacing with the conduit. Okay, there we go. Sideways motion has been fixed. The support for the hopper is much better. So, I'm going to call this good. First modification. And why Keene Engineering doesn't do something like that, I don't know. They could use angle iron. Have an angle iron going up and then over. Okay, and there we go for our first modification. I do not tighten these. Want them loose like they were originally. And make sure that I have put the hardware back where it belongs so I don't lose it. Okay, on with the next modification.